Hello friends, today we are going to discuss one of the question which has been asked recently in 67th BPSC mains. Discuss the factors responsible for the formation of the Indian National Congress. What were the British policies towards early nationalists? See, my dear friends, as you all know that Indian National Congress got established in the year 1885 and one of the key person was A.O. Hume. What would have been the probable reason behind the finding of this Indian National Congress? Dear friends, as you know that prior to 1857, more than 20 peasants and tribal revolts broke out, and even after 1857, the pace of these peasant and tribal revolts were going on and on without any stoppage. So the government was concerned how to stop these frequent peasant and tribal revolts, but there was a huge communication gap between the government and the subject of the day. Dear friends, what were the major drawbacks? What was the major bottlenecks in front of the government? The first major drawback was the communication gap. Second, usually the government used to resort to the suppressive measures, the violent suppressive measures. So that was the second bottleneck, because if you resort to the violent suppressive measures, whether it is going to end the issue once and for all, right? This was a moot question. Thirdly, if you look at the issue, that when 1857, the revolt of 1857 was suppressed, it was assumed that once and for all there will be no violent revolt, there will be nothing like that, but still there were many revolts in the undercurrents. So the third concern was that, is there any mechanism, any mechanism to do or to address the mass movements or revolts, or revolts under the current. So it was very difficult, my dear friends. First issue what we see is the communication gap. It was not just the language issue, because Britishers didn't decide to settle in India. They were ruling here as an alien, and that is why they could not win the faith of the people. So this was one of the major bottleneck in front of the Indians. What was the second bottleneck? Actually, resorting to the violent measure cannot be the part of the civilized society. That is the last resort. So that cannot be the only, because wherever and whenever you did this, the result was that you could not stop the undercurrent of the movements. They were still, suppose if you suppress one revolt, there are many other breeding on the ground. So it was very difficult to suppress many revolts in the piping. So that was one of the issue. What was the third issue? How to know the smoke of the revolt, whether how to measure it. These were some of the issues. Now the point comes in place. Prior to Indian National Congress, was there any political party which was trying to establish contact with the alien government? Yes, there were a few. Why? Because due to the spread of the English education, due to the spread of the westernization of education, due to the establishment of the Asiatic Society of Bengal, some connects were being made between the Indians, at least the elite Indians and the Britishers. They were sitting on the ground, they were discussing. Like prior to Congress, we have one very good party, National Association, we have Landholder Society, we have Madras Mahajan Sabha, we have many others like that, Bengal British India Association. So some kind of bonding was being made between Congress and the Britishers, between the Indian leaders and the Britishers, sorry. So in due course of time, Alan Octavian Hume, who was an IAS officer at Rangpur, he had seen the heat of these revolts, decided to settle these issues once and for all. He was trying to form some organization which could break the barrier of communication link. Secondly, through which the Britishers could put across their ideas, the Britishers could make the people understand that it is their government, it is the government which have been established in their own interest, somewhat like that. And that is why A.O. Hume met with all the nationalist leaders of the time. So initially he met with all the nationalist leaders. Whomsoever it may be at that point of time. And then he met with the viceroy of the time, Dufferin. To Dufferin he revealed that it could work as the safety valve, and to the nationalist it came as the lightning conductor. So both were looking into their own aspect in the formation of Indian National Congress. Suppose if the nationalists join all together, definitely they will have a blanket shield of lightning conductor. So definitely they will evade any sort of suppressive measure from the government, because the party was established by the government agent. When Dufferin agreed, he also agreed because he knew that cost of suppressing the revolt was very high. Secondly, due to the communication gap, it was very difficult to rule, and they have lost a lot of manpowers and wealth in due course of this suppression. It was becoming detrimental. Thirdly, for their image also it was not good, because internationally it could be detrimental for their own image sake. So they agreed for the formation of Indian National Congress. Anyway, but the point is that what were the factors responsible? As I told you, there was some concern about communication gap, and these are all the perspectives of the British point of view. But what was Indians' point of view? Because see, for Indians, why they wanted the formation of Indian National Congress? Already there were many political parties in the offing. So why they will go for the Indian National Congress? Because see, their interest is that if government is with their side, definitely it will be easier for them to communicate in a faster way. If they are doing the same thing in isolated way, it may be little complicated. Easier to communicate with the government and in a more faster way or so. What was the second idea? It could be used as the lightning conductor for them to safeguard from any say for example, if the government is offended, immediately they will not go against them. Thirdly, because of the government association and all the nationalist leaders coming into one platform, they could spread the wave of nationalism easily. The optics will be very high. Right? They could spread the wave of, and that is why deliberately in the very first session, if you see, that was held in Mumbai, it was headed by a Bengali. and within 3-4 years it takes the national turn, because you see immediately after Mumbai, Chennai and Calcutta, the sessions are being held. Not only that, it is being headed by sometimes Muslims, Hindu or Christians or whatever community which existed during the time. So deliberately these ideas were the catch ideas behind the formation of Indian National Congress. But then, as the constitution of the Indian National Congress doesn't go against the government, so you can only go for the appeal, you can go for the prayers, debate or whatever seminar, symposium to put across your idea. But the point is that, okay, these could have been the limitations, but what were the British policies toward the early nationalists? Yeah, if you look at the early nationalists like 1885 when the Congress established until 1905, that is the phase of early nationalist, you can say. So in that period, Britishers were also quite liberal towards the Indians. If you see in the Act of 1892, immediately many of the demands of the Indian National Congress were accommodated there in the Act of 1892. And likewise, you will find that initially they were quite liberal towards the demands of the Congress, but very soon they were disillusioned, because Congress were ultimately emerging as the nationalist party, which was detrimental for the very existence of the British government. And that is why as soon as Curzon comes, he expresses the will of the silent death of Congress. That was the time when they could succeed in exposing the detrimental policy, the exploitative policies of the British government, be it R.C. Majumdar, be it Dadabhai Naoroji, be it Ramesh Chandra Dutt, whomsoever, Rajni Palm Datta, they were trying to expose the government within the framework of Congress itself. They tried to establish that the government which is ruling in India, it's not the British government, it's something else. So initially liberal, and then they keep on twisting their policies towards the early nationalist. By the offing of the 20th century, will find very harsh policy of the government, and deliberately government will try to break the Indian National Congress by establishing the Muslim League and many other detrimental forces. Deliberately they will allow the in 1909 the separate electorate for the Muslims. So immediately as soon as the party comes into the place, secondly they are also willing to divide the Congress into moderate and extremists, and they succeeded in doing so by 1907. So these were some of the policies of the government. Thank you very much, my dear friends.